when it comes to people making minimum wage, I think it's really unfair, I guess, to look at it and think that they're able to pay the same percentage of taxes as people that are making billions of dollars. When you think about the cost of living and you think about how these people are surviving, they're not given the same opportunity, I guess, to thrive in a system in which they're paying as much of their taxes towards that.
Well, I think in terms of fairness, for example, Herman Cain in the last election wanted to institute a 9% tax rate to everyone. For someone bringing in minimum wage making, $20,000 a year, they're contributing $1,800 to the government, whereas someone who's bringing in $1 billion a year is giving $90 million to the government every year.
Yeah.
So it's fair in that everyone's paying a percentage, but at the end, the wealthier are still contributing more.
If you tax someone more for the more they make, what gives them the incentive to go to the next job and work harder to get the next position in the company to make more? Because if I can make what I'm making at the position I am now, and if I get increased tax rate just for moving up, I'm not going to work hard and move up. I'm just going to stay where I am right now.
I want to point out something that y'all said just a minute ago. You used the example of someone that made $20,000 and someone that made $1 billion. Mm-hmm. And a 9% tax on someone that makes $20,000, that takes $1,800 mm-hmm. out of their pocket. Whereas if you did the same thing for $1 billion, yes. It's obviously a lot larger number. Mm-hmm. But isn't taking away $1,800 from someone that only makes $20,000 a whole lot more costly on their quality of life than taking away 9% from someone that has $1 billion? Is it the difference between like being able to put your kid in after school programs or being able to get the new Porsche you want, Mm-hmm. Can you justify that?
I'd say it's not the government's responsibility. The government collects tax revenue to use for the general welfare of all of its citizens. I don't think, so in a sense, I think the person who's contributing $18,000 versus the billionaire who's contributing $90 million, I think the one who's contributing the $18,000 is reaping much more benefit.
Democrats, would you like to extend on that about the impact of taking away the same percentage of someone that makes less as the same percentage of someone that makes more?
Yeah, it feeds into the income inequality. You mentioned something like a Porsche versus after-school program. If we're giving a flat rate and that $1,800 could mean that their kid could get into a better school program and then eventually get into college and eventually, rise into those ranks of a CEO or of a higher ranking individual, I think that we absolutely do not support a flat rate tax because of things that you mentioned. This affects someone so much when they have such little money. If you only had $100 and I took away 10, that's gonna, dramatically affect your money. And I think that it just perpetuates income inequality and it allows the poor to get poorer if we have a flat rate.
If I could respond to that. In a vacuum, yes, it does damage the poor, but this tax money is, a lot of it, I'd say a third, is going to entitlement programs that help the poor. So there's EBT, like the after-school programs. I know in my high school you didn't have to pay for them; they were free. So this tax money is going to fund programs that help the poor people. So I'd still say that they're getting more of a benefit.
But your party wants to take away those types of entitlement programs.
How would you
respond to that?
How would you respond to that? How would you respond to the fact that your party is not only saying should we flat tax, but we should also take away these programs because people don't deserve them?
So it's a lose-lose.
It's a lose-lose situation.
I think too much is being spent on it. I would say we don't need to take it away, but I'd say we should still have it, but only for the poorest.
I think we should fix it. Yeah, I know people abuse the food stamps program. I was a cashier at a grocery store. People abuse that way far than you think they do. I mean, I think we should still have welfare programs to help those who can't get out of the bottom, but we shouldn't be giving people food stamps to go buy steak. I mean, I know when my family's going through a hard time, we eat hot dogs. You do what you can to survive until you can get yourself back up. You shouldn't be eating 5-star restaurant meals if on my taxes.
I don't know when you were a cashier, but I was a cashier as well, and when they used EBT, certain things wouldn't scan through So we do have those types of limitations on food stamps where they're not allowed to buy. I remember a guy came through and tried to buy cigarettes. Like, the government is not going to support someone on food stamps trying to buy cigarettes.
Yeah, you can't buy cigarettes or alcohol, but you can buy steak, you can buy lobster, you can buy everything that, I bet none of us here are eating at home because we're all college students. So I don't think that's really fair.
So do you think that we should just reform food stamps? Are you talking about taking away food stamps?
I think we're giving people too much money right now. If you have enough money in food stamps to be buying steak and everything, that's wrong. You should be, give them what they need, but don't give them an excessive amount.
I think it's harsh to judge the 2 minutes of a person's life that you were able to see. So you don't see what these people are doing the rest of their time. They might be buying one steak because it's their daughter's birthday and their daughter does not get to have nice things, and they want their daughter to be able to have one nice day, to have one nice meal. When you're living in a state of poverty, you don't get nice things. And I think we take for granted the fact that, yes, I'm a college student, I don't eat steak every day, but when I go home, sometimes if it's my birthday, maybe my parents will make me something nice, or you are allotted a lot of things that can help your life in a good way. Like, these people aren't necessarily getting other things, and so maybe that one thing is this one day that is helping them to have.
And we're not eating
better
steak, but we're in college. Like, we need to realize how lucky we are to be here. And eventually, maybe one day, we're going to be able to afford steak for our kids.
I just think we should be, instead of putting all of our money into giving out free handouts to everyone, we should really be investing in figuring out ways to better people off and give them more opportunities to maybe not be at McDonald's and make them more money.
Usually when you're looking at people that are on food stamps, these people aren't people that are just freeloading and just taking money from the government. They're usually people that have part-time jobs, that have a job or have discouraged workers that can't find a job, that have been looking for jobs for years and years. And so when you're not able to move up in society, in the economy, then I guess it's really important to think about.
We're not saying everyone is taking advantage of this system, but there are people who are. And there's kind of a sentiment towards the Republican Party that they just want to see all the poor people on the streets, and that's not true at all. Our country is $18 trillion in debt. We're the third most heavily leveraged country in the world. And if that keeps going, there will be economic collapse. It won't be good.
Wouldn't you say that people making a lot of money are also taking advantage of the government?
How so?
The Wall Street
Wall
bankers?
Street bankers?
I mean, they were in a position where the laws were set up.
They legally did that, but people with food stamps are legally
I'm going to jump in here and kind of get us back on track a little bit. I think that what you were trying to get to was that we shouldn't be spending all this money on social programs when our national debt is already pretty perilous.
And it's not just social programs. I think there are other things that we were spending money on that also.
But Democrats, should we continue to heavily invest in these social welfare programs at the expense of increasing our already out of control national debt?
Okay, well, when we're heavily, I'm sorry, what was the phrase that you used? Heavily expensing? Investing. Let's look at what caused our debt. First off, we were in 2 wars. That caused a lot of money. And us as Democrats, I don't know where, we are not supportive of, wasting tons and billions of dollars of money in war. So it's not just things like food stamps that are causing our debt. That's absolutely insane to draw that parallel to say social programs are the reason or are going to fuel that debt. Our debt was caused by bankers and what else?
I also just think it's important to realize that this is a bipartisan issue. A lot of people will say that our debt has gone up so exponentially in the past however many years, but if you look at the facts and you look at the economy as a whole, you realize that the problem of our debt today is a snowball effect from things that different legislatures have done in the past.
And the Bush tax breaks, the Bush tax cuts also fueled our debt. And I think to say that we shouldn't be funding these social programs is kind of ridiculous.
Also, social programs help to move people up. Social programs help people to have the means to get that better job, to get a better education, to help our society as a whole move up and to rise. So I think it's really important to realize that social programs are not only just giving out handouts, and that while not every single person is going to use them in the exact way that we want them to, there are millions of people that are using these social programs in order to get off of them in the future and in order to help our country as a whole.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to switch topics here and ask a question generally about private property. There's a lot of talk about the estate tax. I know Republicans are talking about eliminating that going forward. So I kind of want to ask generally, what kind of property or how much property should people be able to pass along to their children?
I think everything.
Anything.
I agree.
No limits.
You were already
Just
taxed on
asking.
it.
Yeah, just asking. Would you like to respond? Yeah.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
How much property should people be able to pass along to their children? Should there be a limit?
As much as you want.
As much as you want, okay.
Yeah.
Well, there's an estate tax now, that's why we're asking, and if you have an estate over $5 million, you're taxed on it.
Mhm.
So you're not allowed to do unlimited now. So would you be in favor of eliminating the estate tax?
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
No?
I'm not.
Jordan, why would you not be able to?
I'm not informed enough on this issue
Oh, okay.
in order to take a stand. I'm sorry.
I think
Okay.
just because you die, the government shouldn't take, how much, 5%?
No,
I mean-
it's
So
estates
how
over
much?
$5 million, and it's 20% of estates over $5 million.
Yeah, I
They don't
don't-
take anything under $5 million. If you have an estate under $5 million, so if you were worth $1 million and you
Yeah.
want to give all that to your kids, you can give it all to your kids.
Well, the thing is like,
It's just estates over $5 million to prevent
Yes.
the type of inequality we're talking about. That's why it's kind of going.
I don't think just because you die, the government should get a fifth of everything you make over 5 million.
you were already taxed on it, and so you've already done your share.
I just don't think that's the main reason over income inequality.
How does that prevent from certain families holding on to far too much of the wealth? Luckily enough, Bill Gates says he's going to give all of his money away when he dies. But what if he was able to keep that $80 billion that he's worth and keep it out of the economy for generations to come?
I don't think people really do that.
I don't think that's a problem with it.
All right, let's move on. Let's see.
So, Democrats, I was wondering, do you have a general idea of what type of people are in the top 1%? Like, I know that idea is thrown around, like all these wealthy people in the top 1%. I was just wondering if you had a general perception of who those people were.
I mean, a large percentage of the top 1% are people that have been handed down companies. You talk about CEOs and the people that are running companies having to have worked themselves up, but a lot of the time it's kind of like an exclusive club. It's people that have the opportunities, that have parents and friends of their families that are in these industries that are able to really propel themselves up and to make this wealth because of the opportunities they were given before. So I think that's a large part of inequality, because you're not necessarily given the same opportunities as someone that was not born into the same wealth.
Okay, Jordan. Republicans, would you like to
and
respond? Like, what type of
The
people?
1%, it's 3.3 million Americans. The cutoff for it is, it's around $200,000 a year. Yeah, it's not as exclusive as the Democrats would like to make it seem. In fact, it's like 11% of Americans will spend at least a year in the top 1% of America. I know the general view of the 1% is Warren Buffett and all his buddies, but that's just not the case.
Would you like to respond to that, Democrats, or if you don't have anything to say, it's cool.
14,000 families in America hold 22.2% of the wealth. And I think there's a real issue with that. 14,000?
No.
Yes, it
was. Was it?
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, getting our facts straight.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
And I think that's a real issue when you see that small amount of people. That's a college campus.
That's
14.
UNCW.
Yeah, that's UNCW holding 22% of America's wealth. And I think that the cutoff for the top 1%, you said was 250,000.
250,000.
I think that it's just not representative of how much money is owned by these small numbers of people.
Okay. I guess to switch topics again, maybe to the redistribution of wealth. When we were first starting off, kind of talking to each other, you guys said that y'all are for Bernie. I don't know if that's okay to advertise, but he's definitely wants to have programs that are going to redistribute wealth throughout America. I guess what would be the end goal of this? To give everybody some sort of minimum wage, or what do you want to do? What's the goal going forward? I guess?
I mean, the goal is to bring the middle class back. The middle class has been declining for the past 40 years by, I don't remember the statistic, but
I think it's in the last 40 years. It's we had facts, but now we can't remember them. So I think that we are not necessarily saying, I think there's a kind of idea that Democrats want to have like socialists or just getting rid of the classes. I don't think that's what we want at all. We just want to lessen the gap between the extremely wealthy and the middle class and make sure our middle class is more prosperous.
Okay.
And while our opponents have said that it's not that much money in order to be in the top 1%, I think that on that same point, you have to realize that so many people are never able to even dream of reaching $250,000 a year. So it's a problem.
Okay. Thank you, Jordan. Would you guys like to answer the same question? What is the end goal, do you think, of wealth redistribution, of what Bernie wants to do or what the socialists want to do in America?
Well, the end goal is to make socialism is the end goal of socialism is to make everyone average. You cannot be great under socialism. Free market capitalism offers you the opportunity to climb to work and able to get into the 1%. I mean, I think 70% of people, like I said earlier, from this from this study, 70% of people can be in the top 20% of wealth. And while I don't think that's a huge income number, it's still possible to be successful.
I don't think people realize how much money Bernie Sanders wants to spend of ours for all these programs to, even the classes out. I think some study put it together is about $18 trillion for all the programs he wants to do, and that's insane. That's doubling our debt now. It's already agreed upon with everyone that our debt's at a crazy amount right now, and I think doubling it is the absolute wrong way to go.
Do you think any programs of wealth redistribution are okay?
No.
No.
The money earned by these people is owned by them. It's not owned by society.
So would you be for eliminating programs that currently exist that redistribute wealth?
I would be for scaling them back.
Scaling them back?
Yes.
Okay. Do you guys agree with that or disagree with?
I just wanted to hit on a point.
Oh, okay.
We're not socialists.
Democratic
so, yeah, we're not socialists.
Socialism.
And
Yeah.
we are not looking to make everyone average. Like I said, we're just looking to lessen the gap. So I just want to clarify on that. And obviously, when you support a candidate, and I know there's everyone that I'm sure you guys get a lot about, like Donald Trump. Whenever someone is from your party, people think that you have every single view that they have. I don't necessarily agree with giving free college, but I think that candidates like Bernie Sanders would help lessen the gap. So while I don't agree with spending, did you say it was 13 trillion? 18 trillion. I don't necessarily agree with that, but you have to keep in mind that if we elect Bernie Sanders, it's not going to be him doing whatever he wants and spending $13 trillion. Look at how little Obama has been able to accomplish with his Congress. So we're supporting candidates that are hopefully going to be going in that direction. While Bernie Sanders may have an extreme point of view on some topics, we do agree with him on the underlining point that he's trying to make.
But I also think it's really important to think about the fact that a lot of Bernie Sanders' points that people think are just completely wild, like free college and other different policies that he has talked about. There are countries that are doing these exact same things. In Europe, most of Europe, college is extremely cheap, if not free, depending on where you go. And that's something that they're able to do, and they're able to do without going into ridiculous debt. So I think you have to put things into perspective and realize that just because the American way of doing things so far hasn't necessarily gone in these ways, that a democratic socialism is possible.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say, we don't think you are socialists. Y'all said he's self-proclaimed a democratic socialist, so ipso facto, we're arguing against that. But Europe in general is just a much different culture. The successful countries in Europe, like Germany, the Scandinavian countries, have a much different culture than ours. They're much more focused on their work. They're much more kind of a unified country, where America is very diverse. We're very focused on leisure, which is much more like Spain or Greece, who their economies are both doing horribly right now. So under these socialistic, not socialistic, but the more government programs we have, I see the country headed in that direction.
Yeah, and it's more taking money out of your pocket. I mean, free college under Bernie Sanders, where is he going to get the money from? He's going to get it from each and every one of us. And you're talking about trying to, even out the classes and bring up the middle class. If you're taking more money out of their pocket, that's not really bringing them up.
Like I said, I don't think that, I know that I don't agree with the free college standpoint.
I know a lot of people do though, like who are Bernie supporters. So
I think it's nice to be able to look at society and realize that moving up and like the redistribution of wealth is possible, and like the only way that redistribution of wealth is really possible on like a large scale is for people at the bottom to be able to be given the opportunity in order to succeed. A college degree, to many extents, is the same as a high school degree was years ago. So for so many Americans to not have the opportunity to go to college because of their circumstance, I think is wrong.
I mean, not everyone needs a college education. We still need electricians and plumbers, and I mean, and not every job in the country requires a college education, so I don't think we should push, college degrees down everyone's throat.
I would say the vast majority of jobs that make people comfortable do require a college degree in our day and age.
But there are ways to pay for college other than it just being given to you. There are grants, you can do military service, there are multiple ways to pay for it.
I'm going to ask a question here, kind of bringing it more full circle in regards to this issue. Bernie Sanders got some flack for the first Democratic debate when he said that we should make moves to be more like some of these European countries like Switzerland. Now, you said that you wanted to roll back the social programs that we already had. Do you think that we should at all follow the programs that these European countries have done, such as, like they were saying, the free college or like paid leave, like those kind of social programs? Should we follow those countries and the success that they've had, or should we keep going the way that we're going and not address the income inequality?
Well, like I said, it's a cultural difference. In Switzerland and Germany, they're in the European Union, they're all doing very well. And it's because they're much more focused on their work. I think the majority of Americans go to work and then they're focused on the weekends or their leisure time. Very similar to how Greece and Spain are. These countries like Scandinavia, Germany, Scandinavia's not a country, but yeah, Germany, Switzerland, they all look alike, more or less, which is changing because of all the refugees coming in, but they all think alike, and it's very kind of unified. I'm not sure how to describe it, but it's a much different culture than we have here.
But what do you say to the people that look at those European nations and they don't have many of the problems that we have?
Yeah.
How do you consolidate that? Should we not be making some moves towards that? Because I would say that our income inequality is much greater than those European nations.
I think America is not Europe. I don't think it would work here. There's just too many cultural differences. It's much larger. It just wouldn't be able to be implemented successfully.
The Democrats are quickly would like to respond.
I think it is important to realize that America is not the same as a lot of Scandinavian countries. We're not a homogeneous population. So obviously, one of the things we pride ourselves in is being a melting pot. But I think one thing that Scandinavia and a lot of European countries have realized is that happy people are more productive. So when you feel comfortable, when you have health care, when you are not going to work like sick or
Paid maternity leave.
When you're able to help your family in a lot of different aspects of your life, and when you're happy, you're able to put more into society. And so I think social reform is important because bringing people up will help our society as a whole in general.
So I think we've had a pretty good discussion today from both sides. I'm going to go ahead and end it here, I guess. So we talked about income inequality and issues surrounding it, such as private property and things like that. I would like to give each side an opportunity to present their final argument or final points. I'll go with the Democrats first, since they started, and I'll end with the Republicans. They can have the last word.
Income inequality is a serious issue today in our nation, and our goal is to lessen the gap between the top 1% and our middle class. Our goal is to make sure we close loopholes that allow the wealthiest individuals to get away with hoarding tons of money in different countries. We want to reform our tax system today, and we're looking to provide social programs that help the poor rise up in the ranks.
Well, income inequality is a big issue right now. The solution is not to take money from the wealthy and give it to the poor. The solution is to open up doorways for small businesses to be able to grow, remove tax barriers on people looking to raise their income and allow people to pull themselves up.
I think we need to restore work ethic and stop taking money out of people's pockets for social programs that not necessarily are going to work.
Okay, well, I'd like to thank both sides for a very great debate. I think that we expounded on some issues that needed to be talked about, and I hope that we all learned a little bit. From me, Jake Lampke.
And me, Philip Drum.
Thanks for watching TealTV.